Hey, Bubba Washington here, and today we'll be hanging out by the docks, playing Scott Almes' Harbour, published by Tasty Minstrel Games. How well does it play solo? Well, stick around and we'll find out. The setup for a solo game of Harbour is exactly the same as it is for a two-player setup. You have your 5 building cards to begin with. You'll also have your market board, and you'll also have your player board. But instead of having a second player, you'll have to be using the dummy player and its player board. Now, the dummy player has a set of program moves that it performs during the game that you'll be competing against it, and it's very predictable in how it operates. And the way that it begins its game is it starts by going to the leftmost building in the center row. So in this case, we head to the sushi shop. Now, the dummy player doesn't start with any goods or resources, but so it can't perform the action at the sushi shop, which is to lose a fish and gain a livestock, a stone, and a lumber. So when a situation occurs like this, the dummy player actually gains 1 resource of each type. Now, there's also cards in the game where the dummy player will need to make a decision, such as the privateer ship. Now, normally in a game, as a player, you would get to decide which of these goods you want to rearrange. For example, if you wanted to lower the value of this, or raise the value of the livestock, you would just normally replace it like this. And then the dummy player is unable to make that decision. So in the same situation, it gains a resource of each type. Now, if it has 6 resources, that's the maximum it can gain. So, like if you had it, kind of spread out right here, it would not gain a lumber, but it would be able to gain the additional resources until it got up to 6 of each type. Now, the dummy player also works in a way that if you're occupying a space that it would normally go to, it would just skip right over to you. And it continues on down the line each turn until it gets to the point where it's at the very end. Now, at this point, the dummy player would go to its starting space. Even if you've occupied the starting space, the dummy player can occupy this starting space as well. And then what it tries to do is it tries to sell its goods, all of its goods, at market value, and it will try to purchase the most expensive building in this area. So, for example, we're selling lumber and we're selling stone and fish, and we don't have enough to sell the livestock. So in this situation, the dummy player would sell, and it would earn a total of $9. And then from here, the most expensive $9 one is either the salvage yard or the privateer ship. Now, when the thing is tied, I would assume, the rules don't say, but I would assume that the dummy player would choose the one with the most valuable points. So this one's worth 9, this one is worth 8. So when I'm in this situation, I just pick the one with the most valuable points for the dummy player. So once these are sold, the market readjusts as in a normal game. So your stone would go up here for the demand, and your fish, and then your lumber, and then play would go back, continue back and forth until either you or the dummy player has triggered the end of the game by purchasing 4 buildings. Now, the interesting thing about the dummy player is any buildings that you purchase down here, say you purchased a lighthouse, as the dummy player is moving along the track, it will never visit the lighthouse. You're welcome to visit the dummy player's buildings it purchases, but it never visits yours. And that's pretty much how the game goes. And you just repeat these steps and move pragmatically throughout the game. Like I said, there's certain cards that the dummy player is unable to make decisions on, and there's 7 of them. And there's a list on the back of the dummy player that lists which cards there are, but they're pretty obvious once you start reading it, and you're like, well, what would the dummy player do in this situation? Well, clearly, it's not self-aware enough to be able to pick which good it should move, so it would just gain a single good. And like I said, it's just straight, simple, repeating these actions. You're making your moves until one of you triggers the end of the game. Now, if the end of the game is triggered and the dummy player is on a space that's like a couple of spaces away from its normal actions, it would just naturally move to the start space, try to sell, and buy one last building. And that's pretty much how the overview of the Harbour works for a solo play. All right, let's go ahead and get this out of the way. The solo variant for Harbour feels tacked on at best. I looked at the Kickstarter for this when it first, just recently when I was doing this review, to verify that I wasn't just dreaming on this about this being a tacked on experience. This was one of the reward levels that they were going to stretch goals that they were unlocking to add a solo player experience, because this is what the backers wanted. And with that, I have to say that I don't know exactly how long it took them to develop this, but it does not feel like they developed it to the best they could have developed it, given a longer time frame. With the short Kickstarter development cycle, which is very small window when you consider the overall process in producing a game. You don't have very much time to make a lot of changes, and I feel like the solo experience suffered because of that. That's not to say that Harbour is a bad game. By all means, it is a great multiplayer game. The market that's a genius, the way they Scott have figured out how to maneuver the prices and all with just very little input from the users. You buy something, it's like you ship it, demand goes down, obviously the price goes down. When you don't ship things, there's a decrease in supply and value goes up. It mirrors the whole supply and demand model perfectly. It's like I said, it's one of the crown jewels in this game. However, when I play the solo game, the way I feel maneuvering the market, maneuvering the meeples on the boards, and also removing my resource tokens on each player map for the dummy player and my player, it feels very tedious going back and forth. I feel like I'm in a factory doing a repetitive task over and over again. And if you work in a factory, you don't want to come home and do the job that feels like a job you're not getting paid for. So like I said, I do not recommend this game solo. If you're looking to purchase this game as a multiplayer experience and you're like, hey, maybe I'll try a solo variant every once in a while, that's fine. But if you're looking for a pure solo experience from Harbour, stay away. It is not worth your time or money. With that being said, the solo game does not accurately reflect the multiplayer game. So if you're going to go buy it for the multiplayer experience, go ahead. Solo, stay away. Hey, Bubba Washington here again, and thanks for taking time out of your busy day to watch my video review for Harbour. Now, if you like what you saw and you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, if you enjoy my solo reviews for different board games, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, if you have any constructive feedback, go ahead and leave it down in the comments. I'll respond to any comments you have. But like I said, I produce videos for board games, and I focus on reviewing the gameplay from a solo aspect, and I produce videos every Friday. Once again, my name is Bubba Washington, and thank you for watching.